Mr. Ranking Member, for hosting this day. I'd like to highlight 4 issues that affect my district and the country as a whole: ongoing sewage spills along the U.S.-Mexico coastal border, disaster preparedness and resiliency, issues of public transportation, and then the transportation of spent nuclear waste. First, cross-border pollution. Since at least 1944, the federal government has tried and failed to stop flows of treated and untreated sewage in the United States from the Tijuana River in Mexico, and it's not been for lack of trying. I want to thank the committee for its past efforts in 2000, 2004, and a hearing in 2007 to address the problem. However, we're still dealing with the problem now at unprecedented levels. Over 143 million gallons of raw sewage was discharged in one spill alone. Mexico's sewer and infrastructure cannot keep up with pace with Tijuana's fast-growing population, and until it does, we're going to keep experiencing these spills. This week, I co-signed a letter with the San Diego delegation and Senators Feinstein and Harris, urging the International Boundary and Water Commission, or BWIP, the EPA, the Army, the Secretary of State, and Customs and Border Protection to coordinate their efforts to find a permanent solution that addresses the root cause of both immediate and long-term pollution issues along the border. Advances in water resource technology allow us to think about wastewater as a commodity. We can use it to generate renewable energy, fertilizers, and other valuable byproducts. And as you know, BWIP is unique among federal funding programs because it's the only federal program that can fund projects on both sides of the border. Since the program began in 1997, it's provided hundreds of thousands of U.S. households along the border with adequate drinking water and wastewater infrastructure. And BWIP was initially funded with $100 million per year. However, it had been reduced to zero over the past 20 years to less than $10 million. We need to make substantial investments in projects along the U.S.-Mexico border, investments commensurate with the seriousness of the problem. The San Diego delegation stands ready to work with you to finally eliminate the transborder sewage, boundary sewage pollution problem. Second pressing issue for my district in the country is natural disasters, particularly wildfires, as they have become more common as climate change wreaks havoc on the environment. I've offered 2 bills under this committee's jurisdiction to help communities prepare for future natural disasters. I introduced the bipartisan Strengthening the Resiliency of Our Nation on the Ground, or the STRONG Act, with Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. The STRONG Act would establish a central agency and information center to combine the expertise of local, state, and federal agencies in developing short and long-term resiliency best practices for communities. We know that for every dollar invested in preparedness and resiliency, we save $6 in restoration following a disaster. This bill will give communities the tools they need to plan ahead and increase their resiliency, which will save lives and reduce costs in the long run. I also introduced the Disaster Act with my colleague, Congressman Mark Meadows. This bill would require the OMB to use data it already has to produce an annual report quantifying the disaster-related assistance provided by the federal government each year. Currently, we don't bother to do that. It's important to do. Third, I want to stress the importance of investing in public transportation that actually prioritizes decongesting our roads, increases sustainability, and supports regional housing planning. I urge the committee to continue to improve transit infrastructure, to encourage more commuters to take public transportation and reduce vehicle miles traveled. The federal government can only support a limited number of new projects. We have to prioritize those projects that will generate the ridership, that will demonstrably offer automobile alternatives and minimize greenhouse gas emissions. To this end, we need to ask local and state governments, in exchange for the massive federal investments we're making in local communities, to commit to increasing density and to build housing and other origins and destinations near and along the transit corridors that we build. Finally, a priority of ours is the proper interim and permanent storage of spent nuclear fuel. In San Diego, we have spent nuclear waste sitting within 100 miles of the Pacific Ocean, near a fault line, on a military base in one of the most populated areas in America. While identifying where the waste will go is at the Energy and Commerce Committee, on which I serve, the repository will be useless without the proper transportation planning and execution. So I want to say that I look forward to working with this committee in the near future to identifying the safest ways to transport this waste to its ultimate resting place. Thank you again for your time and consideration of these matters, and I look forward to working with the committee on these and other issues.